Well, hello, guys. Our sneaky, subversive, fucking, general over here, Michael Asiffo, was recording the whole call.
Not the whole
Presumably,
thing, just the last 30 seconds.
no, presumably to get blackmail material on me and David. So one day when David is a famous lawyer, defending Hollywood celebrities with sexual assault charges, and when I'm inevitably some pauper scrounging a living off of the dumpsters of New York City, he can blackmail us.
You got that right. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, Mike is like a cop. I feel like Mike's personality perfectly suits like a police job. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, Mike's a total cop. Mike has a total disposition of a cop.
Literally like a cop in the mind, not even like an actual job. Like he's just like naturally a cop.
Yeah.
Why have you not joined the police force?
Mike is such
it's
a
funny. I did work in PR, and one of the things I actually did was not like a cop per se, but like kind of like enforcement in general. I worked on a team for it for like a little bit. And like how to improve your image, right?
How did it feel to put your fellow people of color behind chains again?
Yeah, literally.
No, see, that was the thing. They brought me in as kind of
wrist locks. How did it feel to like stamp their heads on the pavement? Like did it make you empowered?
Did it feel good of you? Did it feel good Did it feel good to separate children from their fathers? Was that something you took pride in?
Exactly.
You're damn right. I'd do it again if it wasn't for these American kids.
So
no, but yeah, I guess that's one of those story time things. But yeah, like I actually did work in it for a while. It was kind of interesting, like how like cops kind of deal with it and don't deal with it. It gave me an interesting perspective.
Let's save that for story time at the end. We'll have a nice juicy story segment about Mike at the end. I just want to say though, if we were doing the alignment chart right now, Mike is definitely lawful good. I'm chaotic good. David, you're neutral good, and Jeremy is true neutral. I have to say, if we're doing the alignment chart, that's definitely how we go down here. Maybe sometimes I think I'm chaotic evil instead of chaotic good. But,
I would say you were chaotic evil, honestly. Just in line.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are the Thick Leg Podcast, and wow, we are coming off of UFC and MSG. Shitty Bellator card that no one wants to talk about. But I'll tell you what, I was live at MSG, and I can tell you it was a banger. So we had a live correspondent on the ground. How about that? I have some funny moments to talk about from the crowd. We're going to break down some of these fights. Faustine over here, our co-host, has heard the funny moments from the crowd as well. But before we get into all that, we got some news. But before we get into all of that, like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends about the podcast. If you don't fucking tell your friends about the podcast, we're going to fucking do absolutely nothing to you. So, without further ado, I'm your host, one of them at least, Stefano, Hosko, MMA fighter and live correspondent, I suppose. We have Michael, Officer Asiffo.
Yes.
He is one of those conservative African guys who immediately joins the police force and fellow Africans. He's fighting soon. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we have David Blister.
Okay, I'll take Aga Blister. Aga Bluth.
David is many things, but one thing he definitely is happy after Kamaru Usman received a gift decision yesterday.
Yes.
I
love the Nigerian he spoke, the Nigerian accent he put on at the end. Yes, he's right. Niger never carry last. Never. Not even once. Let's go.
I just want to say, and I just wanted to bring this to both of your attention before we get into the news. I was thinking about it, and I think it is almost a tradition in the welterweight division to give your champion a lopsided gift decision. Now, let me be clear. We have Usman last night. Before that, Robbie Lawler. Let's leave out Tyron Woodley, but Robbie Lawler versus Johnny Hendricks. Both of those fights went the incorrect way, right? Both of those victories went incorrectly. Then before that, we had George St. Pierre, Robbie Lawler. Johnny Hendricks. Then before that, we had the Matt Hughes fight with Carlos Newton, where he actually went unconscious and then accidentally slammed Carlos Newton. So we're just following in the great tradition of the welterweight division.
Yeah,
All
actually,
right. Well,
yeah,
we'll get to news and then we'll talk about why you're wrong and go from there.
Well, I'm the in-person correspondent. You don't get to disagree with me. Fall in line, Officer Mike.
I mean, he's used to that, so that should come natural to him.
Oh God.
Yeah, they love order and falling in line and bootlicking those cops.
Yeah. And
Can we get a news transition, please?
Stomping on the necks of black folks. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Oh God.
All right, so first up, Andre Galvao is signing a multi-fight MMA deal. He won't disclose with who, though, which means it's probably one championship.
Wait, who? Sorry?
Andre Galvao, only one of the best jiu-jitsu players in the world.
Yeah. You know what though? Like when he tried at first, and like everyone thought he was gonna be great, and then he ran into Tyron Woodley.
Oh, he wasn't phenomenal. He lost to Woodley, and he had a very close fight against someone who's a bit of a no-name. Yeah, we'll see how he is at this stage. I've heard rumors that, well, actually, I can't say those rumors, but let's just say that as far as Galvao goes, we'll see how his transition to MMA goes.
All right, cool.
He's giving it another shot, so.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk off air about those rumors, but on air, what else you got for us?
What else do I have? Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. Anyone care? It's signed.
No, please. Next.
Mike Perry signs a deal with. Huh?
Say that again.
Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, that one?
Okay, wait, hold on. That should be interesting.
Isn't Tommy Fury tangentially related to Tyson?
I think they're brothers, to be honest.
They're literally brothers, yeah. Like same.
Really?
Yeah. Same dad for sure. I don't know about the mom.
I think this is how my friend who's a girl remembers Tommy Fury. Isn't that the guy on Love Island? That's what she said to me.
Hilarious. Yeah, I think he was on Love Island. He's like a legit boxer though. He's undefeated. So it's gonna be
like 2-0 though, no?
No, 7-0, but like his record of his opponents is embarrassing.
Wait,
it's
so sure. Like Jake Paul?
Yeah. Well, Jake Paul, yeah, it's embarrassing because he's facing like, Ben Askren and Nate Robinson, but Tommy Fury fought a guy with
Tyron Woodley in there. Come on.
Yeah.
Don't forget. If Tyron Woodley had beaten him, you wouldn't say a word. You wouldn't be like, oh yeah, finally he fought a good fighter and he showed him. No, he beat Tyron Woodley fair and square.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fair. But Tommy Fury's faced a guy with 100 losses. So
100 losses? How does one acquire 100 losses?
How do you still have a boxing license after 100 losses? It would
feel like a brain, let alone a boxing license.
Hilarious. I just want to say from the UK perspective, if Jake Paul wins, Tommy Fury's dad is going to be furious. Oh my goodness, that's a pun. Furious. Like he's going to be so livid. That might actually affect Tyson Fury's legacy if Tommy Fury loses.
Tyson Fury will say, I'd just like to thank me Lord Jesus Christ for excommunicating my brother from the Christian church.
Literally.
From now on, he's going to be Tommy Wilder.
Oh, isn't there like a bet? No, okay, this is the one thing. I heard there's going to be a bet that if Tommy Fury loses, he has to change his name to Tommy Fumbles for like a year or something like that.
What if Jake Paul loses? Then what's the bet?
I have no clue. I have no clue what's going on there. This is like a rumor. I heard it tangentially through the grapevine. But yeah.
If Jake Paul loses, he has to never make another rap song again.
Why is Jake Paul a professional fighter? Like, how does he qualify as a professional fighter? And
does he put in the work?
Like this is the problem. Like this is the problem. I struggle with this because it's like I understand that he actually is trying. You know what I'm saying? And he's giving it like a college try. But at the same time, he is not the best of the best of the best. So it's like it's this weird.
No, of course not. But we got to give him a modicum of credit just because we don't like him.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean
no,
he hasn't
sure.
put in the work, and we have to give an honest, realistic assessment of his skills, right?
Exactly. So I get it. Like, I would say, like, honestly, he's one of those guys where, you know, if he were to face like another person commensurate to his experience, it's like, okay, like I actually like legit want to see how he goes through, right? But it's one of those weird, like, why are you getting the shine and someone else isn't? You know, which
That's a
kind of
fight game.
kind of obsessed me with. But it's more of a. I will say this: it's not his fault that that's the way MMA and boxing promoted itself, and he's capitalizing off of the way it happens. You know what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say?
To jump on that, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but Kamaru Usman is right now calling for the pound for pound greatest fight ever with Canelo Alvarez, and it's just so cringe, like so cringe, like
Yeah,
nobody,
it's
literally
silly.
nobody wants to see that.
We all know it's silly. So
I mean-
moving on, Mike Perry signs a deal with Bare Knuckle FC. I think Mike Perry was born to fight in Bare Knuckle FC. I think that Mike Perry embodies the spirit of Bare Knuckle FC. So I'm not surprised.
I was gonna say, who is this a lower point for? Is it Bare Knuckle FC or Mike
It's
Perry?
definitely Mike Perry.
You
It's
think so?
definitely Mike Perry. Yeah.
Dude, Bare Knuckle FC, okay,
They signed
is the low point.
James Van Sant.
They don't
And-
have a low point. They are the low point.
Yeah.
Okay, there is no undulating graph as to when Bare Knuckle FC had a high point. It doesn't happen. They're a flat line on the cardiac monitor in the hospital.
Oh my god. Dude, there's this one. I don't know if it's Bare Knuckle FC. Did they sign you know what, we'll talk off air, because I think they signed a friend of ours and who, well, not friend, but someone we know who's not
Yeah, they signed Melissa Karaganis has a fight there, okay?
I don't. All right. Yeah.
I think it's appropriate for her. I'm just saying.
Don't do that. We trade with her.
Yes, and I think it's an appropriate course of action for her. I do. I don't think some people are meant to fight bare knuckle. There's nothing wrong with that.
Next,
Don't judge them, Mike. It's okay to be BK. It's okay to be BK.
But this is what they do. Right? They sign people with 7-fight losing streaks, and
Mike, it's okay. All I'm gonna say is that it's okay to be BK. That's it.
All right.
We need a new movement in MMA. It's okay to be BK, right?
Next, please.
I think that just about does us for news, unless you gentlemen have anything else. Hasbulla signed to fight Kamaru Usman.
Oh, I saw that. I heard about that.
Yeah. Hey,
No.
Biggest test of Kamaru Usman's career.
Unless you want to talk about Dylan Dennis apparently getting slapped by Ali
I heard about this.
Mike is like a fly on shit when it comes to something that's like tabloidy, you know?
I heard about this. This is funny.
It could be like, Mike, a fight was signed between Cedric Doumbé and Israel Adesanya. And okay, cool. Oh, Mike, Hasbulla was caught like peeing on a hooker outside of the MGM Grand. Oh, I heard about. Let's talk about this.
I don't want to talk about it. I just said I heard about it.
I heard she only had one heel on. Like, yeah. No.
That's why she couldn't run, and that's why Hezbollah got to her and pissed on her. Come on, guys.
Wait, did you say Hezbollah? Mike, he's not a Palestinian liberation group, okay?
What? Oh, Hezbollah.
He's not launching rocket strikes at the Gaza Strip, all right? He's slapping UFC fighters in the face. Let's be clear about that.
Man, I just said I heard about you just say I heard about it one time, and all of a sudden you're Therese Hilton. All right,
David, do you want to confirm the excitement in Mike's voice when he said I heard about
He
that?
was very excited.
Oh, really?
He lit up like a Christmas
The
tree.
most animated I've seen you since, you got to make the weights. Like, that was right.
To make the weight.
You look like Naruto in front of a bowl of Ichiraku ramen. Let's be clear.
Okay, I wasn't here last week.
That's a good reference.
I do have a slight thing that I want to talk about, and that is Khamzat Chimaev. He's been called up by Neil Magny. What do you guys think about that fight?
He didn't call it Neil Magny. Neil Magny called up him.
He's been called out by Neil Magny.
Oh, he's been called out.
I think Neil Magny's been calling him out for quite a while now, saying, yeah, I'd take that fight. And I think it's a decent it's a good barometer for where Khamzat actually is. I think it's an entertaining fight. I like Neil Magny. Magny has some good grappling chops. So I think, I think it's an interesting fight. I'd like to see it. I mean, I'm still at the stage where I'm more and more impressed by Khamzat every time he fights, right? But obviously, a Magny, after beating 11th ranked Li Jinliang, I mean, a Magny fight seems appropriate to me. Does it not to you guys?
No, it does. It does, for sure.
I would say no, personally. And this is no disrespect to Neil Magny, because I just think at this stage, Khamzat is in such a role that perhaps he needs even bigger tests than Neil Magny. No disrespect, because, they said, I heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true, that the Leech is a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
So, to see Khamzat pretty much pick him up and toss him over his head like a sack of potatoes, and then proceed to rear naked choke him, literally choke him, and then switch the grips mid choke. I mean, I don't know.
There's black belts and then there's black belts though. Let's just come out and say that. No disrespect.
Blachowicz is also a black belt, but go on. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. No disrespect to the nation of China, but jiu-jitsu is very young in China, right? Brazilian jiu-jitsu is young there, and there are some legit Brazilian black belts in China for sure, but not world class yet. And I was having this discussion with Faustine the other day where I'm like, give it 5 or so years, and China's going to be a player in MMA on the equivalent of how Russia is now, where it's like we absolutely have to. It's not just 1 or 2 contenders. And we have to acknowledge the presence of China as a global player in MMA. It's going to be like how Russia is now. Okay. But I don't think they're there yet. I don't.
Do you think a black belt in China is worth more than a black belt in Canada?
No way. No way, Jose.
No. Unfortunately not. Not yet. Not yet, I will say, right? Because,
to move back
I would actually say Canada is probably in the top 5 in terms of countries, black belts, that matter.
Yeah, I mean, at the top on a pedestal without, anyone near them is Brazil and the United States, right? Yeah. Certain areas of the United States, specifically, California and New York.
Yeah.
And then
Florida's got some.
I was going to say Florida too, yeah.
Florida, of course. And then in kind of in second, a distant second would be Canada. I would think. And then everybody else, unfortunately. If there's anyone, Russia would be up there as well.
But is it their Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or is it just their grappling style?
At this point, I would say with all the cross-training that's taken place between Russian athletes and Brazilian athletes, we're at a point where we can see influences from different martial arts, but everything's blended together so nicely.
Yeah, that's fair.
How do you take the Brazilian jiu-jitsu out of the sambo at this point? It's like putting the toothpaste back in the tube.
No, it's true. It's true. That's fair.
I just wanted to say also for Chimaev that, I like to talk about the Nate Diaz fight. I know technically Nate Diaz is not maybe as skilled in this current iteration as Neil Magny, but I feel like in terms of a pop, in terms of name, that would make more sense.
Just say you want money fights. It's okay. It's okay to just say it.
I mean, hey, just bleed, right? Am I right?
I get it. You want to maximize on that star potential. The kid's fun. He's exciting. He says he talks a lot of shit, and he's backing it up so far with some of the more impressive performances of a 4-fight run that I've ever seen since maybe Sokoju and Pride. Maybe. And that's you got to go.
Good reference, Mike.
That was a hell of a reference. That was.
Hey, as stupid as I do seem, I do know my MMA.
That was a great reference and a very apt comparison as well. Unfortunately, Sokoju didn't pan out to be as much as we thought he could be, but he was a dynamo.
Yeah, Sokoju was just on a roll. But my point is that you don't know if he will be a Sokoju or if he'll turn into the next Khabib. So yeah, I get the idea of strike while the iron's hot, get him into these money fights, make some money. But at the same time, for competition's sake and for ranking's sake, a Bilal Muhammad, a Neil Magny, guys like that, 6, 7, 8, 9 would maybe even go as high as 5 would work out for him. Who's number 5 right now? What is that? Is that Is that Masvidal? Is that Burns?
Maybe.
Like a Masvidal fight, I think that would make sense too.
I think Masvidal Covington's too much of a moneymaker. Like, I agree with you, David. I do, and I see where you're coming from. Like, let's make the money fights that have hype and interest. But, like, let's not forget as well, we also want to gauge where his skill's at. And let's not forget McGregor, before he got to his Mendez's and his, you know, he had to climb through the Dennis Sievers and the Diego Brandows, right? Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think that we saw another very, very promising prospect, not scuttled, but take a big step back this weekend in Edmund Shabazian. So,
yeah.
Are you fighting this weekend?
Yeah, he
lost to Nasruddin Imavov, who I think is a very underrated prospect. He beat Phil Haas, Imavov, I believe.
Yeah. Good fighter he is. But, like, see, this is my point, too, is that, like, this is the problem with the way UFC markets, is that this is how, theoretically, a Jake Paul can make money off of this sport when you put intrigue behind prestige. When you prioritize intrigue in front of prestige, right?
Yep.
And so at what point do we as MMA purists say enough and say, hey, no, fight the mandatory, so to speak, right?
Number 5, we can move on quickly, but I just want to say number 5 is Vicente Luque. Don't love that fight for Luque. I don't love that fight for Luque.
I like that fight for Luque.
Why not?
Well, let's David, I think I disagree because we don't have a lot of data on Chimaev, but especially against top 10 guys. But let's move on.
Transition.
Serve it up. Okay.
All right.
Now, this weekend, gentlemen, we had a stellar card. As you know, we may have had a correspondence there in person. Surprise, it was me. And what a fight. Kamaru Usman received a gracious gift from the judges.
You really think he lost that fight, eh?
I think it's best if you give the second round a 10-8 because of the knockdown it's a draw. But I don't see how he won.
Wow, that's a crazy.
See, I sat down and I was like, Kamaru won 1, 2, 3, and maybe the 5th. It's weird to me that like you.
You think Kamaru won the 5th?
I do think he won the 5th.
What are these rose-colored goggles you're wearing?
No, that's weird. No. Like that's why I'm like kind of weirded out. But like maybe I'm tripping. Like
honestly, to give Stefano some credit in my books, I feel like round 1 and 5 were honestly swing rounds for me. They could have gone either way. I thought Colby, and maybe even round 3, although I thought Colby did better work in round 3. Round 4 was definitely Colby because he was.
Yeah, I gave Colby the 4th.
And round 2 was definitely a 10-8 for Usman. So. Yeah. I could see where he's coming from.
Well, the thing about these fights is it's not like it wasn't competitive. Like it was
I gave to Kamaru though. Fight. 3, 4, and 5 I gave to Colby, and I think Colby was outlanding him. I think he was wobbling Kamaru in those rounds. He scored a takedown in the later rounds as well.
Wait, hold on. No, he didn't. He didn't score a takedown.
David, getting control and getting someone on their hands and knees, that's a takedown.
But then he didn't even like. Wait, what do you classify as control? Because like Kamaru stood up like
landing strikes on someone from a front headlock position and a turtle position.
Kamaru did that like multiple times in round 4. So I don't know where what does that mean? Like
I don't know. With all due respect, I don't see how you could give Colby like comfortably round 5. I mean, it could go either way, but I didn't have round 1 or 5 for anybody in particular. Like I might lean a little bit more to Usman on number 1, but round 5 like could have been a draw for me personally.
From where I was standing, Colby was landing more volume in the 5th round, and he was outlanding Kamaru as well. I gave him that round. I gave the first round to Kamaru pretty comfortably. In fact, in the early rounds, I'm not sure I like this game plan for Colby. I think that he's given up his advantages in volume and his ability and pace. And Kamaru has advantages in power and physicality, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't a big fan of his, but it turned out in the long run that to be a pretty intelligent game plan. Kamaru got away from the jab and a lot of the body work, which I was very surprised by. Where Colby succeeded was fighting long stretches of the fight in orthodox, which seemed to confuse Kamaru. He spent more time targeting the legs, which I liked. He did a good job of slotting in the lead uppercut after the cross. The rear cross from southpaw, that was landing pretty consistently. The head movement of Kamaru looked good as well, though, I have to say.
But you know what I would say about Kamaru's head movement is that I thought, first of all, like Kamaru did do a pretty decent job with that jab. Personally, I thought he could have used it a little bit more. But Colby was good at like switching stances and, as he said, confusing Kamaru. So I can see why he didn't feel too confident like drawing to that well. But I felt like when Kamaru was trying to like engage, he was ducking his head a lot, which can be good in terms of like, you know,
giving someone a target.
Shots. Yeah, like slipping the shot. But I feel like Colby did a good job of, especially towards the later rounds, reading
finding a home for that uppercut.
Exactly, and that led to the uppercut, which ended up wobbling Kamaru. So,
yes, yeah, the uppercuts were a great read from Colby as Kamaru tried to close distance.
But you know what? Yeah. I saw that he was trying to do that early, like, and he wasn't landing. But as Kamaru started to kind of like, I wouldn't say get tired, but settle in a little too much, right? And maybe it was like the frustration aspect and like wanting to go into that war. Colby started kind of finding a home for that rear uppercut a little bit. So I was like, I definitely don't think the fight was not competitive. Like when I give it when I thought it was 4-1, I wasn't like, oh, Colby got blasted. But at the same time, like, you know, how do you it's a 10-9 must system, right? It's a 10-point must system.
Who do you give it to, right? What was going to scream. I was like, how do you call that a 4-1 to Kamaru, in my opinion? Because it was way closer than a 4-1.
You think it was a 3-2?
Yeah, definitely. Either 3-2 Usman or 3-2 Colby, for me personally. Because I can't see, like, Colby giving way too much trouble in, like, round 3, round 4. Like, definitely, for me.
Yeah, Colby put Kamaru in a level of danger that I don't think we've seen him in his career, at least the modern iteration of Kamaru. He had him rocked, he had him hurt. Kamaru did a great job of staying composed. I think that Colby rushed into grappling range a couple of times when it would have behooved him to kind of stay his distance and plant his feet a little bit more. Colby swung and missed a lot in this fight.
That's what I was going to say. Colby, like, for me, I don't know if his striking is wild, but it doesn't look as refined as Kamaru. And especially once he landed the uppercut, like, he kept trying to go back to it, and he was swinging and missing like crazy. And another thing that I think we learned from this fight is that, first of all, Kamaru Usman's, like, defense, takedown defense, might be second to none in the UFC. Like, the way he was stuffing, like, some of the deepest, like, most prolonged takedown attempts by Colby was super impressive. And I personally didn't see any takedown landed by Colby. In that first round,
if you get someone's hands and knees on the ground, that's 2 points in wrestling.
Yeah, no, but this isn't wrestling. This is MMA. Like, you have to control the person and hold them there. If not,
no, I agree. It's not it doesn't, like, I don't think it would score that much, like, to the judges, but I think we can all, like, you know, put our pride aside and go, like, no, that's a takedown. That's a takedown.
I'm not rolling with that. I mean, I guess technically it was a takedown, but also according to the rules of how takedowns are judged in MMA, is Stefano frozen? Yeah, okay. According to the rules of how MMA is judged, how takedowns are judged in MMA, like, I didn't consider it a takedown. Like, he got him down by pretty much putting all his weight on him and making, like, Kamaru, like, pretty much take a knee. But once again, like, that's small margins. The rest of them were completely stuffed. Kamaru got his own takedown in round 1. So for me, like, I would slightly lean towards Kamaru winning that round, but also his defense is just amazing as well.
We got to stop using Skype. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, sorry about that. We can't use Skype.
Let's go to Zoom next week.
Yeah, for real.
Okay. Anyway, guys, I have the numbers here if you guys want to take a look.
Sure.
Not to say for the record, judges don't have the numbers. Numbers
do lie sometimes.
I'm a numbers guy. Huh?
The numbers do lie sometimes, right? The numbers don't tell you how significant strikes were, but go on.
Yeah. But I do like them. So total numbers. In terms of total strikes, Kamaru Usman landed 158 of 336. Colby Covington 119 of 298.
I'm not surprised.
Sorry?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Significant strikes. Kamaru Usman 123 of 293. Colby Covington 107 of 281. That's the totals. Kamaru Usman officially is 1-for-1 on his takedowns. That was the second round where he caught Colby running in and took him down. Colby Covington officially 0-for-11, although I'd argue 1-for-11.
0-for-11, I think that's bullshit. I think not returning someone and bringing them to their knees is a pretty clear takedown.
Yeah. But, like, look.
David, you're out here shaking your head like you're not living in England. Like, for fuck's sake.
You're right. I have no idea.
I'm in New Jersey right now where some of the best wrestlers in the world live, so...
Right? I don't think look, I'll say this. I don't think it would have mattered much in the scorecards because it was like a mat return and he gets back up and then he's defending it. But it is a takedown. Let's call it like it.
All right, let's call it a takedown.
Right?
Regardless, like to go.
Partisan David over here.
No, I don't call it a takedown. I still would not call it a takedown. But to stuff 10 takedown attempts from what's considered to be the best wrestler in the division, like, you know, or in the weight class, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Usman really showed, like, his wrestling chop and all that D2 versus D1 thing. Like, all that's out the window now. And you know what? Credit to Colby, actually, for trying to switch up the game plan. That's what really impressed me the most. He didn't want to firefight. He was way more cautious. He tried to mix up the wrestling. And, you know, a lot of the takedown attempts were done in, like, really opportune moment where he would sucker Kamaru into, like, an exchange, and then Kamaru
shoot underneath. Yeah,
exactly. Hit him with the power shot and shoots underneath, and Kamaru just had really active hips or, like, would, like, change directions. So I don't know.
The physicality of Kamaru too is not meant to be underscored. Like, Kamaru in person, when you see the difference in the octagon between him and Colby, it's pronounced. Like, Colby could potentially make a 65. Kamaru, there's no way in hell.
Sorry, now that you've seen them, would you say Kamaru is bigger than Michael?
I think Kamaru is significantly bigger than Michael, yeah.
Wow. That's actually kind of crazy.
Mind you,
I wouldn't disagree.
I mean, mind you, Kamaru's got some thin-ass legs.
He does.
So he's got one of those builds where he looks deceptively big, right? But he's got some stilt legs, you know? His upper body is huge, but... I mean, then again, it's hard to say. I saw Kamaru at a distance. I see Mike up close, and there's always a phenomenon where when somebody has like a big commanding presence, you always view them as larger than they actually are. Like, that's a psychological phenomenon, been well studied. So I'm gonna hold off on that.
Right. No, I can see that though, like, definitely, because I am a smaller, like, middleweight. So.
But you're a pretty big dude. I don't know. Like, I don't know. You're a pretty big dude. So, like, especially, like, width-wise.
Can I give credit to Kamaru for something real quick? I want to say that he is one of the few people consistently where working the body is a part of his game overall. Yeah. There's three things that we see consistently now. We didn't see the body jab as much because I think he wasn't as comfortable slotting it in against somebody that was switching stances as much as Covington was. But the front kick to the body, money. I love it. It's a great attritive tool. And the way he mixes in that just a right hook to the body from range, beautiful. Not a lot of people are doing it, but he does it very well as people exit or as he gets them backing up, right? But he times it. I've very rarely, if ever, seen him countered off of that. Yet it's supposed to be one of the most risky punches that you can throw. Just a straight up right hook to the body. You're so exposed, yet he finds ways to slot that in. That's something I like to study. And then the third one is, when his opponents try to close range, he is a master at hitting that uppercut to the body. And he hit it a couple of times against Colby. And it slows people down. And it's one of those things where it's a deterrent to wrestle him, because if you level change onto that, you could eat it in the face, or it just turns straight up into an underhook. And if you don't level change, it's going to take that gas tank.
Mm-hmm. Let me bring up this aspect too of it, is that, numbers guy again. Kamaru Usman outlanded Colby Covington in rounds 1, 2, 3, and 5. And then number 5, actually, he was more efficient, actually throwing less.
Who outlanded who in those rounds? 1, 2, 3, and 5?
Kamaru Usman. 1, 2, 3, and
Kobe.
5 outlanded.
Well, again, that doesn't necessarily tell the full picture, right?
Doesn't necessarily tell the full picture, but it's just interesting looking at it that, like, you know, with that Kamaru Usman, I think it really does credit is that Kamaru Usman was a lot more diverse in the attack. He was landing to the body, going upstairs, not as active to the legs as Colby, admittedly, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I think it's one of those.
Kamaru did a great job of mitigating that outside body kick of Colby, which tends to be like a staple of his game as well. Like, he's so good at fading to the closed side and just jabbing, and just, you know, the kick just kind of either just slaps him or just passes by and his opponent ends up beating a jab. Like, Trevor Whitman's done some great work with this man. He really has.
Yeah, I think like Kamaru's like stand-up looked amazing. Again, I mean, maybe not as good as it looked against Burns or even Masvidal, for example, but it was still like pretty impressive. I'm just wondering whether he might want to start mixing up some offensive wrestling in this game again, because
his knees are knackered. Like,
I feel that. But against like somebody like Colby, I think like that would have maybe made it even more of like a dominant win if he could have.
But it seems to me that he's pretty, like, Kamaru Usman's always been pretty good on the reverse. Like, he's been a very good counter wrestler. Like, not even anti-wrestler per se or defensive wrestler. I mean, like, actually counter into his own kind of takedown. First round.
Sorry, Mike, go on. I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to say the first round where he gets single leg, like he's about to get single legged, and he uses a chest wrap into the rollover. Like, good stuff. You know what I'm saying? I would have preferred a butt drag.
The barrel roll. The barrel roll, right, in the early rounds. Yeah, that was nice. Let's not forget, though, the early part of his career. We remember this Kamaru Usman as a great striker. The early part of his career was all offensive wrestling. Like, he was a grinder. The Woodley fight and everything before it.
Even like the Woodley fight was pretty much like mostly wrestling. I would say like the kind of starting point of this version of Kamaru was actually in the Colby Covington fight, where he just decided like, yeah, no, I'm just going to come out and bang. But before that, like, he was known as an offensive wrestler, very much similar to Covington, who was wearing guys down with like his pressure, his pace, and his conditioning. And feel like he's slightly moved away from that because he just knows like he can hit as hard as anybody in the division pretty much. But like, you know, how long is that going to last? And when hopefully he goes up against a guy like Chimaev, who is willing to wrestle the entire time, doesn't care if, you know, you think you have the better striking, it's going to be a wrestling match pretty much. Like, he's going to want to do that, I think.
I don't think we know a ton about Chimaev's upside yet, but I will say this. I'm excited for the future of the division because while it does look like Kamaru's lapping these guys, I would like to say that there are young prospects on the rise. And with the frequency that Kamaru fights, once or twice a year, as champions generally do, they're going to have some time to catch up.
Yeah.
And we're going to be looking at some interesting people that are going to be making waves in the division. Some interesting, like, there's a new generation of talent coming up.
Timeout. Unrelated. Stefano, do you have underwear on your...
I was about to say, I was like, is that what I think?
Yeah, there's underwear back here. I was drying it on the gaming chair here. Yeah.
Oh, man.
The quality, I thought my webcam was bad, but the quality of this podcast has reached an all-time low.
It's downgraded. We've gone from like studio podcasts to public access television.
To a guy with his underwear on his chair. I feel you, man. You don't want to see my floor anyway.
So,
okay, do we have anything else to say about this fight? I mean, where does Usman go from here? Colby says he's not done. He's ready to fight other guys in the division. I know that we have Masvidal versus Birmingham's own Leon Edwards, like, coming up soon.
Birmingham, England. Yeah. I think there's if Colby can continue putting it on the rest of the division, I could see him fighting his way back to the title, especially with how close the second match was. I think he's ahead of a lot of people in the division. Leon Edwards is probably next if he beats Masvidal.
You say that, but somehow, some way, we'll find a way for Leon Edwards to have another fight.
No, for real.
Now he has another Diaz-like performance, but yeah.
What does
Sorry.
that have to do with anything? Like,
Yeah, no, I just want to say
Yeah, if you have a poor performance against somebody who's like clearly not even close to title contender.
But
Yeah.
he dominated for like 3.5 rounds and got
four
caught.
and a half.
4.5 rounds.
He fought a cautious, not very inspiring performance against somebody who has a very clear path to victory against, and still managed to nearly get finished in the fifth. But anyways, moving on. So a lot of people, this surprised me, are online were apparently calling the Rose and Wei Lee fight a robbery.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
know-
I was actually going to
okay.
say this. I was going to say this.
Me
So,
and everybody else in the arena disagreed.
one of my friends from MMA here, he's one of just these normal contrarians. Side note, he has a terrible take about Khabib being overrated and him only having 3 legitimate wins, which is just one of the most like idiotic things I've ever heard in my life. But he said that Wei Lee was robbed. So when I was watching this fight, I was looking for the robbery, and I'm sorry, like Rose
I don't
won
think
this
so.
fight. Like
3-2.
I think after the first 2 rounds or after the first 3 rounds, I'm like, Rose has to put something together in order to win those. That's how I felt. But
Yeah.
I think with the 4th and 5th, Rose started running away with it. The 5th was clearly Rose. I
Yeah.
think Rose, I was surprised at how effectively Rose was using her offensive grappling. I think we knew what Wei Lee was going to come in and try and do in this fight, specifically working with Henry Cejudo. But leg kicks, she fought a very Volkanovski-esque game plan in the first couple of rounds. Just trying to stay away from Rose and throw the leg kicks and stay on her bicycle, which was interesting. Slow down the movement of Rose, right? Take away that bounce from which she sets up a lot of her strikes, and it seemed to be having some effect. But as time went on, Rose figured out her timing. She was like, I am not going to give Wei Lee free kicks, and she started following up with counter kicks of her own. Counter combinations off of the kick, slotting into just those clean Muay Thai combinations that like cross hook low kick after Wei Lee threw her own kicks, and yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, yeah, for me, Wei Lee looked much better than she did in her last fight. And I might even say, like, go as far as to say, this is the most complete Wei Lee Zhang performance that we've ever seen in the UFC. Because, as you said, like, her low kicks were money. I can't even remember if she was throwing low kicks like that.
She's more of a, like, I remember her being more of a boxer, but particularly straight hitter.
Yeah.
She sure through a lot of her early career, she did prolific work with the inside low kick, but it wasn't a particularly damaging strike. It was kind of just like a tap, very much in like the savate, like those kinds of styles of kickboxing, just a little check. And then if opponents started moving away from it, she'd slot in the lead side kick at them, right? But it was very much just a distance changer. This for my in my view, is the first time that I've seen her really offensively low kick like this. I guess there was some of that in the Joanna fight, though, wasn't there?
There was a couple, like, I remember
good work with Senshai lately.
Yeah. I remember her being. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I remember it being more of like her striking advantage being more in the boxing lane rather than the kicking lane, honestly. But yeah, I thought like her kicking in this fight was immense and may have even been better than like Rose's, which is saying a lot because she was battering that front leg, that lead leg for Rose. And I also felt like, her side to side movement, I don't think once again we've ever seen her move like that. And like,
no.
Like, and I was watching like, UFC Embedded or whatever the lead up to the fight is, and watching her train with like Henry Cejudo and those guys, and they were saying like she's the best athlete ever, and she's clearly like a good student as well, because some of the things that they were teaching her in that video like showed up in this fight, like in terms of like the takedowns, the movement. She wasn't like a stationary target for Rose's like.
She had this really impressive takedown where she gets the double under and just does a nice outside trip, which was just like,
yeah, she shot in for a double underhook as opposed to like shooting in for a double leg. And I throughout the fight too, I saw her trying to set up some things that are just peak Henry Cejudo as far as like baiting your opponent. She didn't hit it, but there was one moment in one of the later rounds where she baited Rose into stepping off the cage towards the overhook. And from there, they leave that large gap in between their legs from which you can hit that inside trip. just
Oh, and she
beautiful.
went for that left side.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, like you guys said, I was surprised to see Wei Li playing the Matador in this fight as opposed to the Bull, because usually we see her pressing forward, using her presence, right? But I think she really wanted to get on her bicycle and compromise Rose's movement before that happened, and then lure Rose into those wrestling exchanges, lure her forward and take her down. And to be fair, this was one of those fights for me where I do think Rose clearly pulled away with it in the end, especially being able to apply her offensive grappling. But it's one of those fights where I think these are two evenly matched opponents. And I think Joanna, a small step below these two, but honestly, those three are like giants in this division, standing above everyone else.
I would love to see this fight again.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'll say I'd love to see this fight again. I totally agree with what you said. For me, the one thing I noticed was that, just looking at my notes here, Wei Li really struggled to close the distance, especially as the fight got in the later rounds. Like, she was really struggling to close the distance on Rose. Maybe because Rose's movement was so good, or maybe just because of the reach advantage, but she wasn't even setting anything up. She wasn't double jabbing or, faking and then stepping in, or she tried that a little bit, but I really feel like that was probably the biggest factor. If she was able to close that distance a little bit more, land a few more punches, then maybe
she abandoned the low kicks, man. Rose is elusive.
I think it just came down
constantly.
Yeah, I think it just came down to abandoning the low kick, to be honest.
Yeah, Rose is constantly presenting the illusion of distance and just bouncing in and out of that range, setting traps for you. And you have to kick the legs on someone like that, especially someone from that kind of a boxing base. And, oh, man, there's a funny moment I wanted to share with you guys. So, first of all, Rose's work on the ground, a good job of controlling Wei Li. Not a ton of damage landed, but a good job targeting the ribs, staying low on her hips, making it difficult to Wei Li to set up offensive things. And we know Wei Li Zhang has an offensive guard. I mean, she's a finish by triangle and a finish by armbar in this division, right? Was working for some good elbows from the bottom as well. Wei Li doing a good job staying offensive from her back. But at one point, she was targeting the ribs, and there were these hicks next to us from Jacksonville, Florida. They would not shut the fuck up throughout this entire fight. And just saying some ignorant shit. So, for example, when Rose was punching Wei Li in the body, they were like, hit her in the ribs. Hit her in those pork ribs like you're serving barbecue sauce and mashed potatoes. And at one point, there was a wrestling exchange, not in this fight, but in one of the other fights. And they're like, back where I'm from, they call that doggy style.
Yeah. I definitely feel the biggest difference in this fight was honestly the jiu-jitsu. When Wei Li was able to get into top position, I feel while her ground and pound was good, it wasn't as dominant in terms of controlling the person on the bottom as when Rose did it. Because Rose got into round 5, especially round 5, that was a clear Rose round, and she completely controlled Wei Li. But when Wei Li was kind of on top in round 1, she was still getting up kicked, and there was she couldn't, I don't know why, but she couldn't really pass the legs of Rose and move her to the side. I felt Rose did a really good job on the bottom. But just to jump on what Stefano said, I actually thought Wei Li was pretty active from the bottom in those earlier rounds, in round 4, I think, where she's throwing elbows. She's really making it uncomfortable for Rose on top, which was good to see. I don't know if I saw too many submission threats throughout the fight, but
Rose had her back a couple of times, right? I think Wei Li had her back a couple of times as well, and I don't think she was close to the rear naked choke, either of them, but both of them did a decent job of hunting for the back and staying on top and eating up control time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gotta say. Sorry.
I just want to say, speaking of the up kicks, I thought it was hilarious. Usually fighters, when they throw up kicks, they're a little more measured. They're aiming and fired. But both of them, when they were throwing up kicks, it looked like when you're the younger brother and your older brother's coming to beat you up, and they're just you know what I mean? Literally, just get away from me. I'm calling mom,
ducks, how their feet are constantly moving underwater.
Yeah. They're still pedaling.
Literally, those might have been the fastest up kicks I've seen in a long time.
There's a moment round 4 because Rose doesn't want to get on be on the bottom of Wei Li. She kicks Wei Li's gut like 80 times, like her life depends on it. Like just
Like
it
she's
was,
on a, yeah, like she's on an Airdyne bike. Like, yeah,
yeah,
I mean, the one of the interesting things, which I haven't seen super often, but one of the ways in which Rose kind of avoided being upkicked by Wei Li and going back into the guard, she would literally almost get on all fours and like headbutt Wei Li in the hamstrings. Like just get all the way down and like, to avoid that upkick. I'm like, interesting. I guess she can't kick you if you get your head down that low. Give me 1 second, guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
I've never
sure.
seen that. I've never seen that.
But yeah,
Michael,
no,
what
I
do you
gotta
think?
say, like very clutch, like work by Rose in that fifth, getting that takedown and controlling her for all 5 minutes, to secure that takedown, secure that round. Um, oh, you know what? Should we like restart or?
No, go, keep going.
Okay.
Clutch work by Rose
By
to
Rose,
secure
yeah,
that.
in the fifth.
Yeah.
Because typically, like if Rose is like because I don't know, like I don't know this like weird like I don't want to sound too esoteric, but like that championship mentality of like,
Oh,
gotta get that round, gotta win
yeah.
that fight, and I really think that like there's that intangible there that like Rose really dug into in that fifth. I will
Yeah.
say in regards to people thinking it was a robbery, really weird theory. I will throw it out if it's wrong, like I will, but do you remember when I thought Joanna won against Wei
I
Li?
do remember that. Yeah.
And then do you remember how like insane the comment section was
Yeah.
and how it was mostly Chinese fans? I think we really underrate like just the Chinese presence in MMA.
I guess for me, like I'm not even that mad. I mean, I am mad because I do think it's a Rose win, like pretty clearly, especially in that when you take that round 5 into consideration. But I had a 2-2 going into the 5th round,
Me too.
so I could see, and even let me just double check because I had Whaley winning for sure, um, definitely round 1. Um, they said that Rose's takedown in round 2 won of the round. I don't know if it was enough because I thought like Whaley like did pretty decently in that round. So I would have had like 2, 4, and 5 for Rose, and then 1 and 3 for Whaley. So
I always thought so
see,
too.
I can see how you can maybe give round 2 to Whaley, and then maybe it could be a robbery, but I don't know. Like I felt like all things considered, it was a really close match. It was one of those fights that was like really hard to like judge, really hard to see like who the clear winner was, personally. So up until round 5, where, as you said, whether it's championship mentality or just superior jiu-jitsu, or it's Rose recognizing where her advantages are in this fight specifically, she did what she had to do in that round 5
Yeah.
and kind of put it on her. Like, let's be honest, like Whaley, as I said, had a pretty active guard. Wasn't like, Rose wasn't styling on her. Like she wasn't like passing guard and like, like literally like a top all over her. Like she was like keeping her pretty engaged, but at the same time, I just wasn't. I think there was only one moment, maybe it might have been round 4, I think, where Rose was actually like in mount. But other than that, like pretty much most of the match was in, or most of the fight was when it came to the jiu-jitsu, like was in Whaley's guard, right? So I thought like she did a pretty respectable job in terms of like keeping it like a pretty close fight. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't see the robbery, but at the same time, it was a close fight. It could have gone either way.
Yeah.
The judges thought it was a split decision, right? Some people, one judge had it, what was it, 48-47 for Whaley. One judge had it, and then the others had it for Rose. I think one of the judges gave it 49-46 for Rose, which is a little high to me personally, but whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Like I thought it was 3-2 Rose. And I thought it was a pretty clear 3-2.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, it's just my theory. I think it was just like I think it's just fans of Wei Li. We underrate just how many fans she does have and what an
billions,
inspiration she is, you know,
billions.
and how nationalistic like even people of part of the Chinese diaspora are. And so
Yeah,
like maybe, just maybe, I'm not saying like, look, again, you can throw this out. This is maybe square peg in a round hole kind of stuff, but maybe, just maybe, they're supporting their girl. Like,
maybe. I mean, I can see how you thought if you gave that round 2 to Wei Li, I can see how you thought it was a win for Wei Li, but I thought Rose did a good job with her takedown, and that maybe would have stolen her the round. And then 4 and 5 for me were Rose rounds. One thing I did want to say though is that first of all, Wei Li super physical, like amazingly physical, and you could tell like there was a huge strength like advantage with her versus Rose, which is why like Rose controlling Wei Li for that round, for those rounds, round 4 and 5, is all the more impressive because like there's a huge strength advantage for Wei Li. And man, Wei Li can wrestle her ass off. Like for somebody, and you can tell with all due respect that it doesn't even come naturally to her. You can tell like she's just spent a lot of time recently with her coaches, like working on specific things.
Hey,
and
man, they're doing some good things in Arizona.
She can wrestle. She looked. That is the best Wei Li Zhang I've ever like watched. Like even better than in terms of most complete, better than the the Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight. Because man, like some of her takedowns, some of her offensive wrestling was super impressive. She looked like a bulldog with like a chew toy in her mouth. Like just
there was one sequence where she goes for a double. Rose defends it by trying to get low, and then she grabs the back of Rose's head and just runs forward and secures that takedown. I really enjoyed that. That was a great takedown.
Yeah, man, she's so good. She's gonna be a problem for most people in the division. But once again, it just goes to show how scaled Thug Rose is. You know what I mean? Like she won that fight pretty much on skill alone, like that skill and heart or whatever. But
no,
like,
I think there's heart into it. I really do. Yeah, especially that 5th round to hold Wei Li down for as long as she did. I was like, wow. No, that's
especially when somebody's so I've said this in my own sense, active on the bottom. Like she was getting some elbows in, she was getting some shots in, and Rose was still just calm. Even earlier, like in the fight, like round 1, 2, like she was eating some big shots from Wei Li as well until she made those adjustments that
like still on Wei Li.
Yeah. I mean, we're stalling until he came back, but she was making
stalling. Well, I'm Lennon. Okay.
All
right, so.
Oh my God, that was so lame. Rose was eating some big shots from Wei Li in those early rounds, and she kind of just like took it like a jam, and kept like kept calm, kept playing her game, and she looked really good. And it's gonna take one hell of a fighter to beat her.
You did a research, man. A lot of what gives Rose problems, as we saw in the second Ioana fight, is being able to effectively counter those jabs with low kick, right? And Wei Li fought out of her comfort zone in a way that would effectively mitigate a lot of the strength of Rose. And
I gotta say, Wei Li also abandoned her movement, like towards. I get it because it's tiring, but towards the end of the fight, like
spent in the last round.
Yeah, for sure. Quick word on Frankie Edgar before we touch on the.
Okay. So for this one, I thought I would be coming when I saw it because I didn't watch the fights live. Sorry, guys, lack of commitment. But when I saw the results, I thought like I would be coming on here saying, man, it's got to be time for Frankie Edgar to like throw in the towel. Like it's got to be time for his career. But no, he was doing good. Like he was doing really good actually.
He was doing phenomenally, man. He was. That's the thing that's sad. It's like
he's winning until he isn't.
Yeah, well, that kick would have taken out a lot of people in the division. Like a front kick directly to the face is like not normal for the human body to be able to absorb. Right? In the peak of Frankie Edgar's career, it would have been normal for him to absorb. But I mean, he was fighting phenomenally, circling the cage, classic Frankie Edgar movement. As soon as he got Cheeto to stand in place, he was slotting those 3 or 4 hooks followed by a low kick. When Cheeto overcommitted, he was there setting up double legs. Like he, in the first couple of rounds, he was making Cheeto look slow, following him around the ring, unable to cut him off. It was just a classic Frankie Edgar game plan, and his style has aged so well. It's aged beautifully. It still works. And if anything, he had the speed advantage over a much younger opponent. I mean, really having trouble cutting Frankie off. Frankie is one of these people that will circle the octagon and just make it work well for him. It's not the same kind of movement we see as far as like setting up a combination and then moving after. It's more like the movement is the focal point of his style, a la Dominic Cruz, right? It's a movement-based style where that movement is what everything else is set up off of, not the other way around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like I agree with what you said, but the one thing I would disagree with is like perhaps, even though his style has aged well for him, maybe in modern MMA, there might have to be a little bit more guile, if that makes sense. I didn't see him throwing like a lot of low kicks, a lot of any kicks, really. His style was.
He threw plenty of low kicks.
Yeah.
Let me check the stats.
Look at the stats, because Frankie's low kicks, I'll say that they're not the damaging weapons of, they're more point scoring techniques, but he was throwing them on the end of combinations. He was slotting in kicks, absolutely.
Yeah, he was doing that. But I feel like, maybe it's just
than the Pedro Munoz fight. If you want to see his adaptation to low kicks, right? That was 2 fights ago.
But what I would say is like, I don't think at any point really
Cheeto
was.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, just to answer your question, guys. Cheeto. So Frankie Edgar with strikes to the leg, 10 of 10. Marlon Vera, 6 of 8.
Okay, fair enough. I'm wrong on that then. But I don't know. I just feel like it felt like watching an old school, no disrespect, like an old school UFC fighter or MMA fighter. I feel like Cheeto's game is much more reflective of like the new generation. This is one of my most tired arguments, but it's more reflective of the new generation. I don't know.
Where Cheeto normally is as a clinch striker. He's a really good clinch striker. And I thought that, honestly, for a lot of the fight, he had trouble putting hands on Frankie Edgar. I thought he looked a lot better against Jose Aldo.
No, this was definitely not Cheeto's best fight at all. I thought he lost that first round fair and square. I think the second round he did. Pardon?
I thought he lost the second as well.
Yeah, I think the second round he did a little bit better, but you could also make an argument that he lost that one too. But I thought when he really started to like make a difference was when he started throwing those front kicks up the middle. I think like those were kind of giving Frankie problems. You started with the body shots and then eventually like got a little bit higher. I thought, in my opinion, his striking looked a little bit better than Frankie's personally. Maybe not as much volume as Frankie, and definitely not as much movement. He looked, in my opinion, a little bit flat-footed, for want of a better word. I didn't think he could cut the cage. I don't think like he like cut the cage for Frankie really well. But
not the right tools to cut the cage, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, I think he kind of walked Frankie Edgar down because he knew he had the power advantage, which they said in commentary.
And probably the durability advantage too. So
yeah.
The front kick's a good weapon against Frankie, I think, in that he has that forward-leaning posture, right? But you got to make him stand in place. And if you want to make Frankie stand in place, you got to punish his legs. You've got to throw that left hook as he circles. You've got to put his back against the cage, which is no small feat, right? But
yeah, no,
not a good night for the New York fighters, I'll say that.
Yeah, it was interesting because it's like Frankie a lot of times in these fights is winning until he's not. Say for the Corey Sandhagen fight, that was pretty quick. He's clearly still competitive, but at the end of the day, he's 2-5 in his last 7. So it's
Yeah. And at 135 right now, he's what, 1-2?
Yeah. So he beats Pedro, loses to Corey, and then loses to Marlon. So
that's the thing. It's not like he doesn't have potential to pull it together and the skills to make it work in this division, but he doesn't have time on his side anymore.
Yeah, he's 40. He's 40.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
I'm 40. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, but Cheeto Vera looked good. Well, not the best he's ever looked, but he proved that he's still like a top dog in the division. And if he was in the title mix in the next like 18 months, like I wouldn't be mad at seeing like him given a go, especially once we've had the same guys go over and over and over again. So
it's good. It's a good look, man. It's a good look for Cheeto. A competitive loss to Jose Aldo and a win over Frankie Edgar and Sean O'Malley in his last 3. I mean, my God, that's phenomenal. And a competitive loss to Song Yadong that, to be honest, I thought he won.
Me too.
What a fight. I'm excited for his upside, and he's an under discussed prospect in this division. I mean, here's the thing. There are these Cheetos from Ecuador, I believe, and there are these Ecuadorian fans in front of us that were just Cheeto, like these adorable little Spanish tias that are just like, yes, Cheeto. And then like everyone for Frankie Edgar was like, yeah, it was a crazy reception. And then when Frankie got knocked out, all you could hear were these like 10 Ecuadorian like adorable little ladies like, Cheeto, I told you, Cheeto.
No, that was a big knockout. Man. That was a big knockout. I liked it.
So what next? Is it Gaethje Chandler time, or is my math incorrect? Oh,
we had the Quarantillo
versus Billy Q
Burgos fight, but like let's talk, if you want to talk Gaethje Chandler, because that was a war.
Man. War, insane, crazy, best fight
of the year? Question mark.
Fight of the year? I don't know. There've been so many good fights. It's hard to put like of the year on any of these, honestly.
David's one of those guys where you're like, you just have a great meal and you're like, wow, that was the best meal ever. And he's like, really? Best meal ever? I'm sure there have been some meals in the existence of humankind that have surely topped that meal.
Let's bring up a continuum of all the meals that you've had and make a comparison. I need to see
I made a spreadsheet here of all the meals that have been had in the human species. To be fair, it falls somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, no, it was a great fight. It was a great fight. I thought Chandler won that first round personally. But I think eventually Gaethje's leg kicks kind of just like ate him up, which for guys, you would know that these things are coming, right? Like you would know when you're fighting Justin Gaethje. Like
for whatever reason, Chandler has made a philosophical decision that he's not checking leg kicks.
But you know what? Justin Gaethje
it's insane. It's insane from being there in person, and I feel like I got to rewatch this fight again, because for me this fight was just like chaos, and it's hard to pick out the individual aspects in the chaos. But Chandler was doing a good job of offensively kicking the legs of Gaethje in the early going, and I'm like, wow, these kicks are going to add up on Gaethje, not the other way around. But Gaethje is just superhuman. Like he will do things like Michael Chandler will be in the middle of hitting with a shot that echoes through the arena, and he's like, no, fuck you. I'm finishing my combination and landing this low kick. I don't care that you've just punched me full force in the jaw with a shot that would have knocked out the entire lightweight division. I started this combination. I'm going to fucking finish it. Like, it is insane what this man is capable of, just physically, aside from, the angles he was able to cut moving around the cage. It was absolute chaos.
Yeah. And yeah, I 100% agree. I thought like Gaethje's kicks are pretty much what won in the fight. I agree. Chandler was doing a good job with the leg kicks in the early round, but I think once he had just eaten so many leg kicks, he literally couldn't use that leg anymore. And he was trying to switch, and he would just get kicked again. Like it was brutal. Gaethje got the knockdown. I think it was round 2 with the uppercut.
With the uppercut.
Chandler knocked down Gaethje at the end of round 1 as well, right?
Did he knock him? He wobbled him.
Wobbled him. Had him on the ropes.
But I thought what's it called? Man, Gaethje must just hit. Chandler hits hard. We saw the Dan Hooker fight, so we know that Chandler has one punch knockout power. But man, Gaethje, like from screen, like he hits. You can tell he hits so damn hard.
But you know what? And I gotta say this too. There was this narrative that Chandler doesn't have the best chin, right? Because of that. Sorry.
I think we can put that to bed.
Yeah, sure. Throw it out. Throw that narrative out and burn it, because the shots he took,
crazy.
Last insane.
Yeah, the uppercut left hook was something that Chandler did a very good job of, and it seemed like offensive wrestling was also a part of his game plan. In that, here's the big difference between what Chandler did and what Quarantillo did. Even though Chandler didn't have the most success with those takedowns. Oh no. Sorry, I'm getting the fights confused. Anyways, I'll shut the fuck up. But one thing about Gaethje's punching power is that you can tell with every shot he's throwing, if he misses, he throws himself off balance. Like, he has the style of punching where it's just his entire body weight is going into his shots. It's insane. Yeah. Like, even on demonstrations on the pads, he like if he misses, he's like colliding into Trevor Whitman, and like it's nuts. Like, yeah, Chandler did a good job slotting in the uppercut left hook behind combinations as well. He did a good job of kicking as well. Yeah, Gaethje did a good job of forward pressure. Again, this fight is just chaos in my head. Like, I've got to rewatch it to pick out individual aspects.
I think you were right about Chandler's wrestling. Chandler tried to mix it up, but once again, this anti-wrestling or defensive wrestling, like Gaethje showed his chops today, it kind of made up for any question marks that might have existed, after the Khabib fight. Because
it doesn't make sense. Right? Because somebody who throws themselves into their punches, that's supposed to be someone who's vulnerable to being taken down, right? Mm-hmm. Their hips are crashing into you. You're supposed to just level change and take them down, but that's not the case.
Yeah. Right. And that's the thing. Like, Khabib is Khabib, and then there's everybody else, and we have to understand that. So when you can't judge somebody's like ground game in relation to when Khabib faces him. For whatever reason, that man's different.
The slam by Chandler was an interesting moment, but it was difficult for me to see. Did he land on his own head?
No, what happened was he landed on Gaethje, but Gaethje rolled just enough that like Gaethje got under him in such a way where Chandler kind of missed him. It was weird.
Yeah, ironically, even being there, like, you guys are going to have to point out some of the aspects and take the lead on this one, because for me it was just like,
No, it was definitely like, I think just the story was low kick, uppercut, left hook, which is a staple of Gaethje's game anyway, right? He loves the uppercut and he loves that left hook. At least old school brawling Gaethje loved the uppercut left hook combo. Trevor's wanting him to punch straighter. Sorry, can't speak for whatever reason. And yeah, like, Trevor wants him to do it. And he was able to set up those uppercuts by like getting Chandler to duck his head, right? Really bend, try to get that offensive wrestling to use, and then land that uppercut, which has been a staple, land those leg kicks. And it doesn't take much to hurt Chandler in the legs. We saw it in his Bellator days against, I want to say Primus.
Primus was the one that TKO'd him with a leg kick.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think for Gaethje, though, the biggest question mark, post fight is title shot, question mark, or is it going to go to Islam?
Gaethje.
Together. Put them together. Let's do a Gaethje versus Islam. Winner gets the title shot. How about that?
I say give the title shot to Gaethje after Poirier versus Olives, because I think there's so many interesting iterations that come out of that fight. Islam, I think, is interesting as a fight. I don't think he's faced enough. This is lightweight, right? Yeah. In any other division, Islam is a shoo-in for a title. But I think at lightweight, until you faced a member of the round robin where you're facing those top five, I mean, he's faced Hooker, yes, but I would like to see him in against maybe a third.
Against who?
I think if you put Islam against Michael Chandler, for example, I think Islam wins that fight like pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
No, where I wonder is how wrestling stacks up against wrestling until it actually happens.
I want to see how he does against Gregor Gillespie, Ferreira, Beneil Dariush, those guys. Like what?
No, like I just think like his wrestling is too good. Like after what he did to Dan Hooker, and I know you guys probably talked about it last week, but after what he did to Dan Hooker, like it's like clear he has the best wrestling in the division, like by far. You're not. Sorry, go on.
No, you're right. You're right. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to either have such a supreme, even if you have a supreme striking advantage, like he's not gonna waste time in trying to take you down. So I think guys like Diego Ferreira, who has like great jiu-jitsu from what I understand, it's not gonna be enough because he's gonna be smashed like the entire time. Justin Gaethje might be interesting, but I honestly have Islam winning that. I have Islam winning the title and keeping it and having like a 10-fight win streak or something like that, 10-fight title defenses or something like that, because he's just they're gone.
No, I'm not saying you might not be right. I'm just saying let's get some more data first. Let's see him against some interesting matchups. I want to see him face someone with great offensive shit and see how he stacks. I want to see him face off against somebody who could move well and deny him takedowns around the octagon. I'm curious. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I wouldn't bet the house on it just yet. I could see it happening though. There's so many interesting matchups to be had at lightweight. Let's test them out a little, you know?
Yeah, sorry. It's just but the thing is, you're dealing with guys who in their heart of hearts believe they're ready for it now, right? So it's like, how do you get these guys to understand that, right? But I think if you can, get these guys ready.
I mean, he's already beat Hooker, so it's really just like 3-4 guys, like, because Hooker was ranked 6,
something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And what was he ranked? He must have been like 5 or something. Was he ranked higher than Hooker? Or?
Yeah, I think he was ranked higher. I think it was 5 versus 7 or 5 versus 6.
So really, there's only like 3-4 guys other than like the title shot that he would like fight. Like
there's Beneil Dariush in that mix. I think.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he?
He should be. He's on a massive win streak right now.
Yeah. Look, I get it. The gray hair, the Tesla comment, it's hilarious. Like, who cares, right?
But Tesla.
Huh?
What did he say about Tesla? I didn't see that one.
He was like, Elon Musk owes me a Tesla, like, or something like that.
Elon Musk did give him a Tesla, apparently.
Oh, did he? Nice. But
so it works.
The weird comments about socialist ideologies. I know. I don't like it myself. But
like, it's hilarious. Like, I get it. Like, he's not very like intriguing as as like anything, but he is a guy who's won a lot.
Dude, he's 4th. He's ranked 4th, apparently, according to Top.
He's right there. He's
on this massive win streak, equal to Islam Makhachev's.
He's right there.
He's just not as compelling, but he's going on a win streak dating back to 2018 against 3, 6, 7 fight win streak. So that's comparable to Makhachev's. Yeah, man.
I think that's the next fight for Makhachev or Gaethje, depending on what they go with the title shot. Like, I really do. So
that's 4. Yeah, 8, 9 fight win streak for Makhachev. Yeah, it's comparable. I think it's lightweight. It's a division of sharks. It's interesting. There's a lot of
There's killers out there.
Give Beneil Dan Hooker, and then we'll see. I would like to see Makhachev against either Gaethje or the title. Like, that's it, really.
You're acting as if Makhachev is the one who's faced more top prospects in the division, as opposed to Dariush. Makhachev, if anything, is the more untested.
Sorry, unprofessionalism.
Yeah.
No, that's right. You're right. Untested. But anyway, this was fun.
So let's
all the alarms.
Yeah, Mike. Unbelievable. Get your shit together.
Unprofessionalism. Sorry. All right. But yeah,
dude, look at this division. We got people like Grant Dawson and Damir Ismagulov ranked 20 and 22 respectively.
Grant Dawson could actually make a title run. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty.
As is Ismagulov, man. Jesus Christ, this division's insane.
But then again, you also got McGregor ranked number 9, at least in the one that I'm looking at. So
yeah, but McGregor doesn't leave rankings. He just sticks around, despite not having fought in years. He will always be ranked. Okay. So I just want to bring up the fact that what else we got on the main card that covers us except for that banger between Burgos and.
Yeah, I gotta call you guys out for this. Why is the crowd silent? Why?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't understand. They were a fickle and interesting bunch. They were probably, in my guess, is that they were emotionally exhausted after Gaethje and Chandler. They're like, please, no more.
Where's Billy Q from? Is he from New York?
He's from Billy.
Florida.
No, he trains in Florida. He was born in Buffalo. He's a Buffalo boy. And Shane Burgos is from somewhere in New York as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's like 2 New York guys. You would think the crowd would be like pretty pumped for that.
Yeah, I know, man. I didn't understand it. It was a great fight too, but I appreciated it. For me, kind of the story of the fight was
Again,
early.
low kicks.
Yeah, early on, Quarantillo was very awkward. He's somebody who's in your face, and his level change uppercut, which is something I'm seeing a lot of people do who are pressure fighters quite well. Mixing that in, pressuring Burgos to the fence, and just throwing volume in very awkward ranges, just hanging off of him and throwing clinch strikes like a hockey fight. In the rounds 2 and 3, Burgos was able to make reads, and the overhands and uppercuts of Quarantillo just kind of whizzed by him, and Burgos was able to stay in that pocket range that he likes to kind of hang out in and just effectively counter Quarantillo with boxing and just make him miss and low kicks. And yeah.
Can you believe that both these guys are 45ers? Like,
yeah, they're huge. They were huge.
I love Burgos' style so much, man. Like, he looks so slick. His boxing is so slick. It's so smooth. Like, it's a thing.
It's hit a little too much for my liking, though.
But that's what I was gonna say. His hands crazy low, especially in that first round, because you can tell like he's trying to slip the jab, but Billy Q is like literally tripling, quadrupling on his jab. Like he's gonna keep flicking that jab until he hits you. And he got like Burgos a bunch of times, and then I thought like what really turned the fight was, as Stefano said, the leg kicks. The leg kicks like messed Quarantillo up. And he knocked, Burgos knocked Quarantillo down twice, if I'm not mistaken. Or he got caught, whatever, in the first and the second round. And for the rest of the round, like just leg kicked him to shit. And I thought Billy Q was like really having trouble like blocking those kicks. And yeah, I thought it was a Burgos win made sense to me. Both of them looked good. I've got to be honest, Billy Q probably looked the best that I've seen him so far, because I've not been super he's clearly talented, but he really like showed out on this fight. And that third round was really impressive because his leg was mangled, and you could make an argument that he won that third round with his like grappling. So that was pretty impressive.
His pressure's relentless, man. He's somebody who you have to stay on your bicycle against, or you have to really find a way to jam him and deny him those entries, or else he's going to maul you. He's going to maul you. And
his striking didn't look like the cleanest or anything, but like it was effective, and it was especially in that first round, man. It was giving Burgos problems. Like Burgos couldn't move his head like fast enough because, like as I said, he was just like doubling, tripling, quadrupling on those jabs, really pushing Burgos like into the corner, grabbing onto him, and like a little bit of dirty boxing. It was making it really ugly, and I thought Burgos did well to kind of move away from that, and as you said, make reads.
Mike, are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you serious, Mike?
Sorry.
What integrity this show has left? You are.
Yeah, really. First we got underwear, my terrible camera. Now you're answering calls in the middle of the pod.
I'm not answering.
I have to wrap this up for myself soon. I just want to bring up two things before I depart. Number one, Mike, off air, I'll give you when's your fight?
13th.
Okay, off air, I'll give you. Okay, that's next week. I'll give you my analysis of your opponents coming up soon. Like off air, I'll give you a shout. But I just wanted to say, first of all, if I ever have a fight, a fight against an opponent, and he comes out to some tribal, Amazonian, Brazilian music, and fires an arrow at me, I'm gonna do this. You ready? I'm gonna do this. Ready? Panic double, man. Or either that or I'm running out of the goddamn arena. Jesus Christ. Poetan Pereira, what a beast.
Jesus.
And sorry, I got to go. So really quickly, I just want to draw attention to one more thing. I told my girlfriend before we were watching the event, I'm like, there's one fight I'm very low-key excited for on this undercard. There's this 5'8" heavyweight named Chris Barnett.
Oh.
He is morbidly obese. He will do backflips and spinning kicks and run off the cage for a minute and 30 seconds and then just gas himself out and profusely sweat and do nothing for the next 3 rounds. And I am so excited. And he did not disappoint. This man sweats Popeye's chicken grease, but
Oh, wait, is that racist?
is it racist? I don't know.
Hey, why
I
can't
don't know,
it
maybe
be?
a little
Why
bit.
can't it be chicken shawarma grease, huh?
Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, he sweats good Christian Chick-fil-A.
Oh God. Why is it gotta be chicken? Why can't it be fish? You never know. Maybe he's a vegetarian. Anyway, go on. You gotta go.
All right, guys, I gotta go. Love you both. See
All
you
right.
soon.
Peace out, man.
Later.
See ya.
We're gonna wrap up soon anyway, so it's cool.
Yeah. I feel you. Just wanna do a quick transition to boxing news.
Yeah, transition.
All right. Okay. So just really quick, let's talk about the Canelo fight because it was like really hyped up. Supposed to be one of the biggest fights of the year, and did not disappoint. Really quickly, I thought Canelo dominated this fight. I know some people might have given Plant some rounds. Like I would give Plant the first round, but that's because Canelo literally did not like throw. Like I don't think he even
Do the
reached, like,
activity. You give it to him. Do the
10.
activity.
Yeah, like he literally didn't throw anything. But I felt like from the second round onwards, actually, like Canelo kind of like dominated.
I didn't think it
And
was a rollover though. I thought it was competitive.
I agree. I don't think it was a rollover. He's definitely had easier fights. But then again, I don't think it takes much. He's not. I don't think Canelo's even that kind of fighter where he's gonna like sweep you for 12 rounds. I think all he needs to do is just like get some reads, establish a pattern that works for him, shut down some of your weapons, and then eventually just like knock you out pretty much.
We didn't even say the result.
Oh yeah, Canelo Alvarez defeats Caleb. You see, this I'm not used to boxing like Jeremy. This is why we need you, Jeremy. Canelo Alvarez defeats Caleb Plant by 11th round knockouts. I wouldn't say it's the most vicious Canelo knockout. I would even say like the first knockdown was probably more vicious than like the second one, which is where the referee called it. And I think honestly, like as I said, Canelo was just doubling up on that hook to the body, hook upstairs. Like his hook game was crazy in this fight. And even though Caleb was doing a good job, sticking that jab, trying to stick and move, and I actually thought Caleb Plant did a decent job of remaining pretty defensively responsible, especially in the pocket where a lot of guys don't want to be with Canelo in.
Pretty
I thought
fast
eventually,
too. He was. I
yeah,
like
it
his
was fast.
speed.
And his movement was pretty good too, because Canelo was having a hard time, especially in the earlier rounds, even though I do
Tracking
think he
him
still
down.
won. Yeah, tracking him down and like cutting him off. But at the same time, like man, Canelo like that his body hook. I need to go back and study it because it's a thing of beauty, man. Like, and you could tell he was hitting way, way harder than Plant, who was the bigger guy. But Canelo just has that tight, compact, like it's like a spring coil, like it just explodes, and he was smacking Plant like crazy. And yeah, I thought he did a good job. And eventually, Plant was just gassed because it's hard. You would know better than I do. It's hard to do perfect defense for like 12 rounds, and eventually Canelo's shots, especially when your opponent's starting to make like reads on you. Eventually, Canelo was starting to land just more and more and more, and by the end, like Plant just was spent and got caught.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah,
did
no,
you think?
I agree. I thought Plant's conditioning from his prior fights to now was better. He does tend to
Okay.
fade actually more. But then again, when you're facing the caliber of opponent that you usually face in comparison to Canelo, no disrespect to those other opponents, but Canelo is pound for pound the best in the world, right? So you gotta be on your A game, and I thought he actually did bring his best, and it was a valiant effort. But I thought Canelo was winning as well, and I thought it was competitive, and I was impressed with Caleb Plant, but I wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? I wasn't by any illusion that Plant was winning the fight going into the 11th. Like no, like Canelo was
I would
in
actually
control.
say, unpopular opinion, or maybe it's not that unpopular. I think Billy Joel Saunders was actually a more competitive fight for Canelo. I thought he actually was giving Canelo more problems than Plant, who really was like limited to the jab, limited to trying to counterpunch, which he wasn't really having much success in. And that's it pretty much. Like,
I mean, that's fair. Like, I think Billy Joe Saunders was a lot more trickier, whereas Caleb Plant was a lot more honest. And so there's this whole thing of like, you know, I thought Caleb Plant's offense was more effective than Billy Joe Saunders' offense, but I think he was a lot more trickier and lot more elusive and evasive. Sorry, I thought Billy Joe Saunders was a lot more elusive and evasive due to his trickiness. But see, this is the thing. Once Canelo figured out Billy Joe Saunders, it was a wrap. Whereas Canelo figured out Caleb from the 4th round on, basically, and Caleb stayed in there. So
you're right.
It's hard to it depends on what you value, you know.
As you said, Caleb was way more defensively responsible in this fight than Billy Joe Saunders was. He didn't, duck his head too much, which is what got Saunders got. He had his hands up high, waiting for that hook. He used his shoulder roll pretty well in those early rounds. Was a lesson on how to use a shoulder roll against a shorter, more powerful opponent. But at the same time, I just keep going back to Canelo's body shots, which may be the best in the game. They were so
the way he just rips in there.
Not just the way he ripped, because you can have power in your body shots, but to be he does it so quickly, he's still defensively responsible. You never see him get countered off that, which is crazy if you think about it, because it's one of the most dangerous punches. So he doesn't in a way where he'll go low, go high, then finish with the right, or and he wasn't even throwing jabs at one point. He was just leading with the hook and still not getting countered. Which, when do you see that in boxing? When do you see
true. And it's a subtle way he's exiting out too. Like he exits out side, and I mean really subtle side right. So
it's beautiful, man. And that was gonna be my question for you and Jeremy. Where does he go from here? Because now he's clean. He's unified the belts, pretty much cleaned out the division. Does he go up? Does he go down? I've heard of a super fight with who was it? Was it Terrence Crawford? No.
Could you imagine?
No. I would love to see that, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. They're talking about him fighting Charlo. I can't see that being any different from what this fight was. Honestly, no disrespect to Charlo, but I just don't. So, where does he go from here? Because he's kind of done everything there is to do in the division.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think that's a Jeremy question, because, Jeremy is Jeremy knows everybody. It's like one of the running jokes of the podcast, where it's like, Jeremy, if you're like a homeless guy on the street who has a box rec profile, Jeremy's heard about it. So maybe there's a guy I'm missing here. I do know that we're a fan of Boo Boo Andre, but he doesn't really have the name experience where Canelo would be up for that one. But Boo Boo is a champion at, I believe, 68. So why not go there and try test your luck about him? The other one is GGG. He's been quietly building together quite a win streak. Why not go a trilogy, right?
I mean, I would love to see that. I'm going to be honest. I have that first fight going for Triple G. I have the second one going for Triple G as well, personally. I just took everyone's word that Canelo won that second fight, but then recently rewatched it. I'm like, wait, no, Triple G actually won this fight. I wouldn't mind seeing that again, but something tells me Canelo's not going to do that. And also, even if they did, I think Triple G's at the point now where Canelo's on a roll. He's in the prime of his life. Triple G's on the downward kind of Klitschko-esque spiral where he could put up a good fight, but it's probably going to go to Canelo. So I think the world is okay if they don't have a trilogy, personally. Yeah. But yeah. Yeah. But no, yeah, I just thought, once again, Canelo proving he's the pound for pound best boxer in the world. And, people are calling him the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. That was a whole thing this weekend. I don't know. I didn't watch Julio Cesar Chavez, so I don't know. But, man, still, like, he might be, like, the most pure, I don't want to say boxer, but just the most dominant one I've seen in my lifetime. Yeah. So props to him. That was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, Floyd Mayweather begs to differ, but okay.
I didn't watch Floyd Mayweather like that, and I
Fair.
wasn't all too impressed with a lot of his wins. But the way, maybe just the way I'm biased, I like the aggression. I like the power punching style of Canelo a little bit more than like the defensive masterclass of Floyd. But yeah, man, it's really interesting. You know what? Maybe that's a fight we should have. Do a rematch, Floyd versus Canelo. Let's see it. If Floyd can box
bring
Logan
back
Paul,
Floyd in his prime.
yeah, who's the bigger star, Logan Paul or Canelo? My money's on Canelo. So you want to make some money, Floyd? Come do it again.
He's gonna get murdered. Are you
Gonna
kidding?
get absolutely smoked.
Are you kidding? Yeah, you get murdered because he's 42, 43. Anyway, this is getting off.
Yeah, that
All
will
right.
show you the depth where we are.
Well, Stefano already threatened the children, so
Okay.
I guess. Yeah. By the way, guys, I got a hole in my shirt, and
Was it always there, or did you do it when you were stretching?
so here's the thing: I didn't notice until I stretched. I was like, wait a second. So it might have been when I was stretching. I was like, but yeah.
Wow, this guy's just too ripped, too prepared for that fight coming up. Just too jacked.
Oh man. Yeah, I have no clue how this.
No, it was definitely not there before. I feel like you'll have to see it in editing.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah. Other than that, in this crazy mixed up world where I got a fight next week. Oh, and I recently got my purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Snap.
Yeah, I can't get choked out by you. Pause.
Pause. Balls. Just remember, you got three things. You got life, you got family, and David saying some. No, I'm kidding. In this podcast. Later, everybody.
All right. Peace out, man.